Hello, JQ here again with some more Sound Voltex Konasute info for you. If you're already set up and subscribed, but kind of lost on how to navigate the game, I've got good news. Now, a person dedicated enough to go through all that setup probably has some basic Voltex knowledge already, but I'm making this video as if you don't, since not everyone has the luxury of an arcade with the game in their region. Anyway, let's do this. As an aside, if you're not yet subscribed and need help figuring out how to go through all that mess, I made a video on that subject already. Feel free to pause or just zip over there and come back later once you're ready. I'm not going anywhere. When you open up the game and get logged in on the website that opens, you'll see the launcher open. There are some options here that you'll be able to utilize to customize some global settings for playing the game, so I recommend you take a look. Don't worry, I'll help you out. The main one we're looking at is the settings menu. When you click on this, you'll be greeted with this window. Here are window options. The first drop-down sets the window mode between full screen, which is exactly what it says, fit window, where it windows it but locks it in place, and windowed, which gives you the title bar you can drag around. Below that, you'll see options for screen orientation. These will be especially useful for people like me who have monitors that can spin to a more arcade-style vertical layout. Underneath that, you can set resolution and options for FPS. The first radio button is to automatically set it, and the second is to lock it to 60 FPS. The checkbox below is to prioritize the refresh rate of your primary display or not, and typically the game will attempt to run at 120 FPS if possible. The second tab on the settings window is to set key bindings. It's especially important to set them up how you like if you're playing with a keyboard, so take some time to browse here if you need to. The final tab for settings is for audio. My knowledge on these is limited to none, so I recommend doing some research if you think you'll need to mess with these at all. Going back to the main menu, the button below settings, which has a disc with a plus sign near it, is to add songs to your library. If you click it, you'll be sent to a browser window which has the shop on it, primed for you to look for song packs to add. Feel free to refer to my other video on setting up the game for more information on shopping there. In the upper right is a button to have the game check for file integrity. If you have weird errors or anything while playing, clicking on this on the menu might be good to see if a corrupted or damaged file is causing the problem so that the downloader can fix it. The last button besides the big Game Start one in the middle is a link to the terms of service. Review them if you like, but keep in mind they're going to be in Japanese. All that said, now we can finally get to the part where you're actually playing the game. This video is going to focus on modes and options, but I will probably put out an actual in-song gameplay tutorial in the future, so look forward to that. Anyway, when you get the game loaded, you'll see your profile pop up showing you some statistics and the like, but we can ignore those for now. After that, you'll have a chance to pick an appeal card to start with to serve as your icon while you play. There are a lot of choices, so see if you find one you especially like. I have to go with Gumi myself, because Gumi cute. And, as we know, cute is justice. Meanwhile, if you select the crew button, you'll be able to select a navigator, that being the live 2D characters that hang out in the background. You have a few versions of Races and one of Grace by default, but if you happen to get any of the gacha characters, you can also select those in this menu as well. In any case, soon you'll see two options on the main menu, Normal Start and Skill Analyzer. We'll go over them in order, beginning with Normal Start. When you load into Normal Start, you'll see the song wheel and a button for the blaster gate. When you first start playing, you won't be able to go into the blaster gate, but we'll go into more detail on that one in a bit. Use the right knob or the keyboard's up and down buttons to scroll the wheel up and down. The left knob or the left and right buttons on the keyboard will let you switch difficulties. There are several folders here to help you filter and navigate songs. Starting from just after the blaster gate folder, we have the All folder, which is exactly what it sounds like. Every song you currently have in the game, including any DLC that you own. It won't show DLC songs you don't have, though. After that are 10 folders for navigating by title. Knowledge of the Japanese alphabet is required to use these, so feel free to skip those if you don't know. After that will be level sorts. Open these folders with the start button or your enter key, and you can check out only songs with that difficulty in one or more of the available difficulties. There are a multitude of other sort options as well. Below the level 20 folder, if you have it, there's the pack folder. Go here to filter down to just the songs you've bought as DLC packs. They'll be labeled by name, so it should be easier to find what you're looking for. The option under that is the score grade folder. This sorts songs by what your highest grade was on them. Change difficulties before opening the folder, and the amount will change to reflect what you have for that difficulty. The next folder is for clear mark. This is for the medals on the side, like if you've gotten a UC or Ultimate Chain, this game's full combo equivalent, or if you've gotten the hard, or as they call it, excessive gauge clear. There will be more on gauges later on. The next folder is genre. In it, you'll see several options. In order, they are Pops and Anime, Toho, Exit Tunes License, Vocaloid Music, Floor Songs, which are winners of Sound Voltex song submission contests, Bimani, which covers songs from Bimani games other than Sound Voltex that happen to make their way over, Hinabita and Bandmeshi songs, Sound Voltex originals, i.e. ones not from external submissions that would otherwise fall under the floor category, and lastly, a miscellaneous folder for anything that doesn't fit in the categories above. After the genre folder, we have the contest winner folder, basically a subdivided folder for the floor genre mentioned a moment ago. It sorts songs by the contest or event each song was submitted for. Following that is version sorting, so if you know which Sound Voltex game a song comes from, you can sort by that if you don't know other attributes to search elsewise. Next up is the release date folder, for what year each song was added to the game. Past that is the favorites folder, for anything marked as a favorite, which you can do with the number 0 on a keypad while highlighting the song you want to add. Note that keypad commands cannot be done with the numbers above your letters on the main keyboard area, only the right-hand side keypad's numbers will work. The next two folders will have their contents change over time, as they're determined by your own progression in the game. The Vol4s folder shows your top 50, or more if some are tied, songs in terms of contribution to your Vol4 score. Basically a notation of overall ability. There could probably be an entire video on just the minutiae of how Vol4 works, to be made by people far smarter than myself, but for the purposes of this video, just know that getting higher scores and better clear marks will generally lead to more Vol4 over time. Don't get too hung up over it though. Vol4 should be seen as the proof of growth, rather than a number to stress over making go up, despite how much many of us, myself included, love watching the funny number go up. The last folder is similar, but measures your top skill in each of the different song radar categories. Thanks to Voltexes.com for clarification on some of the terms here. Feel free to go there for more information sometimes as well. Anyway, notes refers to the amount of notes in the song compared to the song's length. Peak is for the highest density of notes in a song. Tsumami is for how much time is spent manipulating the knobs. Tricky covers a lot of things, such as speed changes, camera angles, spins, and any other things that could mess with you during a song. Hand trip is for notes you have to hit with the wrong hand, like hitting the FXL button with your right hand, using the right knob with your left, and so on. And finally, one hand is, as you might figure, the amount of notes having to be hit with one hand because the other is busy. Lastly, we finally get to the blaster gate. As you play songs, you'll fill up an orange gauge you can see on the lower left of the menu. When it reaches 100%, it'll max out, and you'll be able to play one song from the blaster gate. These songs can't be played outside of the gate until you've cleared them. If you beat a song, you unlock it for normal play, as well as every difficulty of it below the one you cleared. For example, if you clear a blaster gate song on exhaust, you unlock that chart, but also the novice and advanced ones. If it has a fourth difficulty, like maximum or infinite, that one will still remain locked until you clear on that level in the blaster gate though. Once you play a blaster song, whether you win or lose, the gauge empties to 0, plus any percent you would have after the song play in question. Sometimes you might see some songs glowing orange in the blaster gate. For these, the rules are a little different, and I advise playing them on the highest difficulty no matter what your own skill level is. Glowing songs have a temporary bonus that they will unlock regardless of if you clear or not, but they will still only unlock up to the difficulty you played them on, so play the highest level and either Try it, or just tab out so it will auto-crash you if you want to get it over with more quickly. Now that we've gone over the song wheel, we can move to gameplay options. If you hit the FXL and FXR buttons together, you'll open the options menu. There are a lot of options here, and if you don't understand Japanese, they might be really confusing, so feel free to keep this as a reference. The first one is speed. This controls how fast the notes scroll down the lane. It's helpful to increase it to make notes more spread out, as long as you can read and react to them in time. As you grow as a player, you will likely need to raise this more and more, as note density and complexity will only rise, and having a bunch of notes on screen might make it hard to process. Experiment! A special note: if you find a speed you like and don't want to have to set it each time you start the game, press the number 6 on the keypad. It'll lock that speed as your default, both when you get out of a song mid-session and when you sign in for the first time on a given day. Again, that's keypad number 6. The number row above the letters won't work. After speed, we have two options for adjusting offsets. The first one will move the timing of the music a bit earlier or later. If you're hitting a lot of notes too soon and don't want to adjust the visuals, adjust this toward the plus side. If you're getting a lot of lates, adjust it downward. The option right after is for adjusting the position of the timing window. If you're sure you're tapping at the right time but your inputs are off somehow, maybe due to hardware or any number of oddities, it works the same way. Use plus if you get too many earlies, and minus to fight getting too many lates. Next in line is the option to turn on or off early and late indicators on screen mid-song. The one with critical will let you know if you're early or late compared to an S critical, basically a crit that doesn't affect your normal score, but is even tighter on timing than a normal critical, and does affect a thing called EX score. More on that in the actual gameplay video in the future. The one labeled near won't have early or late markers pop up if you're hitting criticals, be they regular or S crits, but instead only show up for nears. The last option turns off early and late indicators entirely. After that, there's the position of the early and late marks. Obviously, this won't have any effect if you set the previous setting to off, but for the other settings, this will make the notice show up in the area designated on the graphic for this option, or thereabouts. If you have a different place you read notes from, it could be helpful to change where this comes in at. Try messing with it to see what's most comfortable for you. Following that, there's the S-crit toggle. If it's on, you'll see both S-criticals and normal criticals displayed in-game and on the results screen. If you have it off, you won't. Simple. The next tab lets you preview your inputs so you can check for timing settings and how you have your early and late indicators and whatnot. I personally use an actual song as my testing ground, but if this works for you instead, go for it. After the preview tab, there's the option for system voices. Have it on and Racist, or whoever you have set as your navigator if you have a different voice one from the gotcha available, will pop in with comments on performance and the like, and read out your grade at the end of a song, and so on. Turn it off if that's not your thing. The Valkyrie Effect tab lets you toggle on and off the extra visual embellishments that were added with the Valkyrie model cabinets back on the arcade version. If for some reason you want to see things as they were in the original Launch of Exceed gear instead, turn this off. After that, there is an option to switch the color of early and late markers. Leave it off to keep the default, where red is early and blue is late, or turn it on to swap the two. Depending on one's mindset and gaming history, they might associate red with one thing versus another, or blue with one thing or another, and in the heat of a song, you might not be able to fully read the words early or late, and rely just on the glimpse of color to see how you're doing. If this sounds like a thing you want to change, here it is. Speaking of color changes, the next two options let you change the color of the knob lasers. Helpful for colorblind people, or people who just want to switch up their aesthetic a little bit. Or, if you want to be really cruel to yourself, you may even be able to make them both the same color. The next option is for background brightness. If you find the flashy colors too distracting when trying to focus on the notes, consider lowering this a step or two. After that, there's a toggle for which scores you will see prioritized on screen mid-song and on results. Normal score is the standard one, out of a max of 10 million for any song, while EX score varies by song and chart, as it's determined by the number of notes hit as S criticals, criticals, nears, or errors on a note-by-note basis. The random tab can be very chaotic or just spice things up a bit, or it might even help you get past mind blocks. Off will make the notes their usual arrangement. Random randomly assigns all notes for each button into a different lane, as in every BTA will appear in the same spot, every BTB will be in the same spot, and so on. Mirror flips the notes completely around. All BTAs become BTD, all Bs become Cs, and vice versa. This also applies to the FX buttons, which swap places as well, along with the knobs switching sides. Random plus mirror does exactly what it says on the tin. Random is a harrowing one, though. It randomly assigns each note to a different slot, and has a chance of moving knobs to the other side as well. The next tab is your gauge selector. This determines your pass and fail criteria. Effective rate, or the normal gauge as you might say it, fills as you do well and drops as you miss. Your objective is to end the song with the meter at 70% or higher when the song ends. Excessive rate, meanwhile, swaps you to a more traditional life bar. It starts out full, and if it ever hits 0, your song ends immediately with a track crash. The last option, excessive plus ARS, begins with you on an excessive rate gauge, but if you drop out of excessive, instead of failing instantly, you switch to effective rate, with the same gauge amount you would have had you been on effective from the beginning. Second to last tab, let's go! This one controls in-game volume. Adjust as you see fit, but don't overdo it and blow out your eardrums, okay? The final tab lets you set a challenge for yourself. If you have one of these turned on, the moment you are no longer able to fulfill the condition you set, the track will crash immediately regardless of where your gauge is. For example, if you set it to UC and get any errors at all, you'll get a track crash right there. If you set to AAA and do poorly enough to where you can no longer reach that grade, regardless of performance for the rest of the song, you'll crash. So on and so forth. That's it for the main song menu, but there's one more I can go over for this video, the sort options. On the song wheel, hit your FXR button to open the menu you see here. This will let you sort the songs in whatever folder you're looking in, which may make it easier to find your target songs. The first option is default. I'm not 100% sure on the criteria for this in the alphabet folders or any other ones besides the level sort ones, which are the ones I usually use, but in the level folders it will do the same thing as the clear mark sort later on in the list. The second option sorts by song title. It's not as useful if you don't know Japanese, but if you do know enough of it, this could help you out a bit if you're not in the alphabet folders. If you know who made a specific song, the third option is artist sort. After that is my personal favorite for when I'm outside of the designated level folders, as it's the level sort, arranging songs by their difficulty level on whichever difficulty you've currently selected, if said difficulty is available. For example, not all songs have a maximum chart, or infinite, gravity, or whatever, so you'll see exhaust charts mixed in there as well sometimes. The fifth option on the list sorts by release date. If you remember about when a song came out but can't seem to recall the other details for it, this one might help you out a bit, or it could be useful to find newer releases if you want to try something you might have missed. Though I'd probably suggest just using the release date folder instead for that one. After that, you can sort by clear mark. This is the default sort for the level folder as I mentioned earlier, but you can use this sort option to apply the same rule to other folders as well, where it will sort by clear mark and then in order of score. Similarly, the second to last one is sorting by score grade. As opposed to clear marks like a normal clear or a UC or whatever, this one sorts by the grade at the end of a song, like A+, S, and the like. Lastly, there's EX score sorting, which is much the same but for EX score instead. That's all for the normal start folder, but there is one other one I promised to go over. It's time to see how good you really are with the skill analyzer. Starting from the title screen, advance until you get to the menu with two options again, and select Skill Analyzer this time. It should be noted, though, that even the easiest courses start at level 6 and 7 songs, so it's not for beginners. If you're still getting your feet wet and aren't quite there yet, keep training and come back when you're ready. When you get there, you'll see a list of different courses available for each level, noted as Dan courses, kind of like in martial arts. You can use the left knob to select the difficulty level of the challenge, and the right one to pick which of that level's courses you want to take on. Each course analyzer course consists of 3 songs you play in sequence, all of which you'll see listed there. When you hover over each course, you'll also hear a preview of the last song in it, so that you'll have some idea of what you're getting into at the very end. Be sure you set any options you want to on this page before you select the course, however, because once you've entered the course, you won't be able to come back to set anything until you either win or lose. Once you've gotten everything set, enter and play whichever course you want. As you play a skill analyzer course, you'll see a new kind of gauge, the permissive rate. It functions similarly to the excessive rate gauge, but both increases and decreases happen a lot slower. Take note though, because it's also persistent across each stage. As you can see, the gauge at the end of this song is the point where it will start at for the next, and you need to survive all 3 to clear the course. The last song is usually the hardest of the bunch, so you'll want to try to get into it with a healthy meter if you think you'll struggle at it. If your gauge hits 0 at any point, you're out. You'll be taken to the total results screen, which shows what percentage of the course you managed to survive through, and your total score, as well as the individual scores for each song you managed to reach. If you win, however, your percentage changes to 100% plus an amount based on how far over 9 million points your normal score average was across the 3 stages. For example, an average of 9.5 million will get you 150%, and so on. You'll also obtain a special title commemorating the achievement, which can be displayed under your profile during any other gameplay. In addition, if you complete the most recent course in a given difficulty, you'll get a silver frame around your title. If you complete every course, you'll get a gold one instead. Complete them and also score high enough on them, and your title will be upgraded even further, adding a halo around your title. While most people who need a video like this won't need to know, for completeness' sake, I've also got one final note. The Dan levels you see from the outset are not the only ones available. There are 2 more advanced ones, 11th Dan, and the 12th one, which is referred to as Infinite Dan. To unlock each of these, you have to clear at least 1 course in the preceding difficulty level. That's a lot of information, and it might be too much to take in all at once, so feel free to come back and refer to this video whenever you get confused or forget something. That's it for this one, but stay tuned until next time for when I finally go over how to play the darn game. See you soon. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. If you'd like to see more, leave a comment below or find me on other social media linked in the description.